Default device.
I know we're not recording local
Check.
yet, so don't let me forget to do that. Click here. Anytime to
Can you hear me
view.
now? Perfect. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we hear you. Uh, Thomas, you want to
Oh,
swing over
yeah.
to?
Oh,
Actually, I'll swing over to YouTube because I need to see if it's even working. YouTube. Bum, 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 bum. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, PHP ugly. PHP ugly is live. Well, it's definitely broadcasting. Let's see here. Right. I hear my voice. I don't. It's not showing my camera, but that's fine. Thomas
you
and
hear my
John.
voice. What does my voice sound like? Does it sound sexy and sultry?
Like Kermit without the hand up his ass.
Come on, Chrome. Stop being stupid.
All right, perfect. That's all working. All right, we'll just stick with that for now, and I'll try to mess with it. I'll probably mess with live just to mess up the show, but alrighty. Um, cameras, active speaker. For whatever reason, it never switches over to me, um, which is probably not a terrible thing. If I do select all cameras, what happens?
Especially if you're just resting, it turns out.
What did
Come
you
on,
say?
that was funny.
Didn't hear what you
I
said.
That was
yeah, you're cutting out.
Yeah, you broke up there, buddy.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
you
I
running
don't know.
you running torrents or something?
As usual.
Of course he is.
No, I put my dynamic processor back in the mix, so it's probably not me just not talking loud enough.
Yeah, I did that too. All right.
Wait, when did you do that, Eric?
Just now.
Oh,
Uh, I wish there was a way to DI output. Virtual camera. Install virtual camera. Oh, I think that's what I need to do to. I forget how to get all the things up here.
My internet.
Alright. Whatever. Alright, well I guess we're just gonna have to live with this today. I'll just switch. What are my numbers here? One is John, two, wait, two, wait. I'm not switching. Two is John. Oh, two is John. Three is me, four is Thomas. Three is me. Three is me, four is Thomas. Alright. So I'll just keep it on active speaker unless I'm talking, I guess. I don't know how to do the split screen right now. There's a way to do split screen. It's driving me crazy. I'll keep messing with it though. All right, I'll put it on me because I'm going to lead this fantastic show. This is
Start
going to be a game show.
start local recording.
Start local recording in 3, 2, 1. Clap check. 3, 2, 1.
I was a little soon on that one. You want to do it again?
You can repost any moment. I threw out a tweet there, so let me go ahead and retweet. Let's see here. Let me do a retweet, and then we'll go ahead and get the show on its way. Oh, PHP ugly. Let's get ugly. Forgot to hashtag things. Oh well. Alright, got my beer. Hey, you didn't reply to whether or not we can bring cigars.
I would prefer not smoking.
Really, really, really kind of a downer, to be honest with you. I can stay home and lose money and not smoke and not eat meat. Or eat meat, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say $20 says you can't.
Yeah. Alright. Hey, well, the man said no cigars, no cigars. Okay, people.
A cigar, you just gotta walk away from the table to smoke it.
I'm sitting outside. Why would I have to walk away from a table? You want me to walk inside your house? How's that? That's so smart. We don't have so much to say now, do we? Okay. We'll get the show started. I hope people are joining us because I don't have Discord running. Okay. You're listening to episode 169 of PHP Ugly, and
Nice.
The crew is back together. I am your host, Eric Van Johnson, and joining me this wonderful Thursday afternoon are my two good friends, Thomas Rideout.
Hello, hello.
I tried to switch over to the camera. I couldn't switch over. What are you here for? There you are. And John Congdon.
Hello, hello. You missed a key point in there. Not just host Eric Van Johnson, but host and published author Eric Van Johnson.
Published author! We have so much to talk about. I just spat on my camera. I was so excited. Let me clean that up for the viewers at home. Sorry about that. So
Right,
much of our life has changed over the last couple of weeks, and we will be touching on several aspects of that. So first off, we are faced with some streaming challenges. OBS, I upgraded my laptop, and it seems like OBS is not very happy with me with that. So we did a bunch of quick stuff to try to get OBS working. It still is misbehaving, so I cut back over to another app I have called Ecamm, which is one of the first apps we were looking at using. And of course, I don't have this configured correctly so that you can see everybody's face. So yeah, I'm just going to try to manually switch between people as people are talking. But for the most part, yeah, you're stuck with me. Which isn't a horrible thing. Just to kind of put that out there. If anybody listening happens to know how to use Ecamm and wants to remind me how to get all three of us on the screen at the same time, I am willing to live code that for you. But for right now, I will only do it while other people are talking, so I can stay focused. All right, so it's been a few weeks. A lot has gone on. A lot has changed. We've got a lot of feedback. We've gotten requests. So we're going to try to cover as much as we can over the next 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and see how much we get out of it. But before we get started on any of that, well, obviously, we like to thank our Patreons. We always like to thank our Patreons. But before we even get started on that, I'm curious, Thomas, how was your experience at PHP World?
That was more work than my normal daily work schedule. PHP
What?
World was PHP World was intense and busy and
Don't drive people away from it. I didn't think that.
it was a lot of fun.
Talking about ends.
It was a lot of fun, but I felt very, very busy. The jet lag hit me real hard, and I was very pleased with how much there was to do and going on and all that stuff. So I had a great time, and I know it may seem like I'm not impartial, but my favorite talk was the event sourcing talk by our very own John Condon.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm in the same boat as you, Thomas. I didn't go to a lot of talks the morning of the second day, and we'll get back to that in a second. But of all the talks that I did go to on the first day and the second day, John was definitely right up there at the top. I do think his was my favorite session talk, and then I don't even know which one of the keynotes were my favorite. Cal did a good one as well. And what's her name?
Samantha is just so full of like historical information.
I know.
Yeah, Samantha's was funny to me because she would tangent herself. She has so much knowledge on just everything she was discussing that when something would come up on the screen, she'd see it and go, "Well, you know what? That's actually there was a small system before this system that ran on a 2-bit processor." With like she would just start going, but we're not going to get into that. Like she knows so much about the history of computing in general. I was really impressed with her talk. But then Cal Evans' talk was like holy motivational crap. That was so like amazing. He is very, very motivational.
Yeah, I like Cal.
All of his keynote.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I have I have all three of us. I have all three of us up on the screen, but it's like overlapping. I'm very confused, but I'm going to go with it for now. Oh wait, something happened! Holy crap! There's 4 windows now. Wait, how do I take one of them out? Oh, I got it! I got all 3 of us up on the screen.
Quickly becoming an editing nightmare.
This is awesome. Okay, we're good now. We're good. I'm not touching anything. All 3 of us are up on the screen. I'm happy with this, and I assume everybody can hear all of us. Will there be video of John's talk? Yes. John, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's already out. If you purchased a digital-only subscription, or if you attended or purchased a digital ticket, you can download the talks already. I think they are still selling them too, but you're basically paying for all of the presentations. I barely started listening to mine. They did throw out an apology for the quality of the talks. It doesn't really match up with what they're used to doing, so they are buying equipment to fix this for their next conference. But the audio in all the rooms wasn't great,
which is unusual.
Yeah, the audio, the reverb in some of those rooms was real bad.
Yeah, and some of the feedback I got was I needed to project more, but I'm using a microphone. I was worried about over-modulating into the microphone. It was just, little issues there, but overall, I mean, I watched the first few minutes of my talk, and I felt myself stumbling. Like I could see where I stumbled and what I wanted to say versus what I did say. But I'm happy with the quality.
It was actually, John's talk was really difficult for me because normally during John's presentations, I'll speak up just in the middle of him talking and correct him on something or ask him a question about what he's talking about. And it was about
It's funny because it's true.
It was about 60 seconds before your presentation started that I realized I need to not do that. And so you're very fortunate that my my barely functioning brain clicked in for a second there.
It was a good time.
Yeah, and Also, while we were there, we recorded a live episode of the PHP podcast, which was myself, John, and Oscar. And I tell you what, that turned out to be such a fantastic episode. If you don't subscribe to it, subscribe to it. It's free. It's just another podcast. But listen to the show from the conference. We pull in a bunch of people. Samantha, Cal, Taylor Otwell sat down with us for a while and ended up snubbing John. Jeff, Jim, Gary,
I hear about
Bill.
the snubbing.
Do you want to hear about the snubbing?
Oh, of course I do. You know I do.
I don't. Taylor, I love you. I don't think it was intentional.
but it was funny all the same. So one of the really cool things about PHP World that's a little different than your other typical PHP conferences is that you do get a wider variety of people. So there was a good showing of WordPress people there, a good showing of Drupal people, and Taylor Otwell was there. You know, he was actually speaking on one of the panels, and while we're doing our show, we were doing our show in the open area where all the vendors were. So there's a lot of background noise. There's a lot going on. But we look over, Taylor's over there, and I asked him if he wants to come over, and he comes over, and he was nice enough to sit down and talk to us for a good 5-10 minutes. Then he goes to leave and shakes my hand, shakes Oscar's hand, and then just turns us back to John and walks away.
Well, we talked about it, during the conference, is that he seemed like he felt out of place at the conference. You know, he's so used to.
No, he actually looked very, very in place. He looked like he was enjoying himself. And we talked to him about it on the show, and he was like, it is a different experience for him because, like as he puts it, he lives in this bizarro world when he goes to Laracon where he's this popular figure and everybody wants to take pictures with him and everybody wants to speak with him. And that happened
I know how
here.
that is.
Exactly, right? We've all been there. But and that happened here. I mean, it's not like nobody. It wasn't complete anonymity for him. People knew who he was, but it wasn't constant. Like during the keynote, I looked over and he's coding away. You know, he's behind his laptop coding something, and he was out in the open area. And to his credit, I mean, I saw him there several times. And he only spoke at one panel for like an hour. So I'd go out to the open area and he would be out there coding or talking to somebody. But he said he actually quite likes it. It gives him an opportunity to talk to people, to see how some of these other projects are handling certain things. And so I disagree. I think he looked very, very comfortable. He just looked like a normal geek.
Maybe that was just me then, because every time he showed up, I had to stop talking.
You freaked out on me that one time. It was like, I don't think John was with us, but Thomas and I were standing there talking, and we actually might have been talking to Oscar at the time. And
no,
then,
it was just me and you.
And then up behind me, off my left shoulder, Taylor walks up, and then I see Taylor at the corner of my eye, so I know he's there, and I'm trying to open up the conversation so that he can walk in, but I look over at Thomas, and Thomas all of a sudden forgets how to speak, and he's doing this with his eyes. He's doing this. I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
beads
Thomas,
of sweat, and
I know he's there.
Audio podcast.
Yeah, he's doing this darting thing with his eyes, where he's looking at me and then darting them over at Taylor. And I'm like, yes, Thomas, I know he's there. And eventually, I intentionally say, hey, Taylor, and welcome him into the conversation. But
yeah, and what did I say? I said I gotta go.
He did. He totally did. Then Thomas was like, I'm out.
Why'd you leave so quick?
Because I swear to God, this is going to be the dumbest reason. I'm so upset about the Semver thing, and it was just like when I saw him, the only thing I could think of was you've got to tell him, you've got to explain this to him, and then I was like, I am in no position to mansplain Semver to Taylor Otwell. I just need to leave.
I ran into him and talked to him about it.
Yeah, but you have a more cordial relationship with him.
I don't know that I call it cordial.
I feel like whenever someone mentions Laravel haters on the internet, they're just directly addressing me.
Talking us? Oh no, I think it's all three of us. We're not. No, we're not. Definitely not. But I'm probably the most impacted because I'm the most. I try to stay the most involved with the Laravel community, so it doesn't do good being marked as a Laravel hater. But I'll
friends with Thomas.
Friends with Thomas, right? And what was funny, so I had hoped to get Thomas on the PHP podcast, but he comes stumbling down around 11:30 in the afternoon that morning, right when we were wrapping up. But if you listen to the podcast, it's hysterical because, like I said, there's a ton of background noise going on, but in particular, there was this virtual reality headset that people were wearing. And in the middle of this area, they were playing games. And every now and then, twice on the show, you hear them crash into something.
And I saw that. That seemed like a liability.
we're talking...
wildly swinging in the middle of groups of people.
And what did I tell you? Was it you, Thomas? I said, every one of these people who are participating in this, I bet you none of them would dance in public. But no, you put a headgear on them, and they're flaring around all crazy. And
see, that was the part that was weird for me, is that after they got the headset on people, they started recording them. So I don't know if the people who were being recorded flailing around in public knew that they were being recorded. It was kind of like a Jimmy Kimmel style prank.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sure. I didn't sign up for that at all.
But no,
I did, but they wouldn't let me.
What?
Said I did, but they didn't let me do it. They're like, we don't want to see you dance. It's okay. Hey, stay away.
But great conference. I enjoy PHP World. I really do. I think I'm torn between Tech and World. I didn't go to Tech this year, and I know they have a different format this year. But man, I do like World.
Switch it back.
Oh, and we didn't even talk about the big news. Wait a second. I'm not done. It was in Virginia.
I yield my 5 minutes to the gentleman in the Disney shirt. Oh, the Laracon shirt. I'm sorry. It looks like Disney.
Okay. It's this is from Laracon Sydney. This is Laracon 19, apparently. You have to know certain people to get this particular shirt.
Excuse me? Where's mine?
But I don't know. I don't know if you know certain people. Get one? I don't think this is a Semver version correctly. I think that's supposed to be 2019 and not Laracon 19. But we'll see. Well, I could be wrong. But yes. So PHP World is in Virginia. The Nationals were in the World Series. First day there, I jump on the Silver Line, go to the stadium, watch Game 1 of the World Series, which was being played in Houston, but they had a viewing party at the stadium, and I got to watch the first game of the World Series on his home turf, and then the Nationals win the World Series. They win it because I was there for the first one. Okay, go ahead.
So I love PHP. I love PHP World. Aside from the baseball-related things that happened around it, but it was very basic stuff for the most part. You and I went into a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency talk. And
I went into that one. I left it pretty quick.
Yeah, I got about 5 minutes into it before I realized where the whole talk was going. and that it was just covering the core concepts of crypto and how it works, and not anything really advanced or particularly implementing PHP.
Yeah.
And there were some other talks. There was some business talks and things like that. And I looked at the tech schedule, and it's far more advanced, far more focused if you choose your track correctly. So I think, since I only do one of these a year or so, next time I'm probably going to go to tech.
Which they moved to Nashville this year.
Which I'm excited for. But as opposed to, what other conferences? You don't go to conferences though, do you?
I'm trying to get back into doing it once a year at least.
So you do see the benefit of it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
And you got to experience somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, I appreciate your podcast. Thank you."
I got the exact thing you get, which is I've been talking to you for 10 minutes, and then I turned around and heard your voice and realized who you are.
That was cool. So that's always nice. I'm glad you got to share in that. That's always fun.
That was nice. Although when he said realize who you are, for a split second there, I didn't know who I was. So he said, "I know who you are," and I went, "Uh-oh. What did I do?"
What haven't you done is the better question.
Okay, so to recap, our last show, we were discussing how we really want to do more for our Patreons, and one of the things that was asked of us was to start talking about business. People had asked if John and I would start doing little clips talking specifically about our business, and that's going to have a much bigger topic we're going to get into here in a second. But before we go down that path, I am such a fan of her writing now, and I'm freezing her name. Syntax.
Syntax Seed, Sherry Wheeler.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she's a Patreon or not, but she specifically asked if we would talk about our business model, which again doesn't really change, but there are some new factors involved. But I'm not sure if she's a Patreon or not, but she's done enough to promote the show, and she's been with us long enough. I definitely want to entertain her question a little bit. So this is going to be a very big topic, but specifically around our model. So this is what we get asked a lot, because we have a little bit of a different business model in the sense that we don't charge hourly, we don't charge by project. We have what we call a retainer model. And what that means to our client is that you have a resource, a person working on your project. Now, who that person is, it may not always be the same person. It may be multiple people. It may be, one day it might be an operations person, one day it might be a developer, one day it might be a front-end developer, a back-end developer. The point being, you don't have to worry about the specialty anymore. You're going to pay us a retainer, and you're going to have people working on your project, and we're going to manage that for you. I fought the whole headcount example for a very long time, but to John's credit, that's what people understand. So when they ask, well, how many people are going to be working on it, or how's the retainer modeled? It's loosely modeled on headcount. Not exactly headcount, but again, so that people can get their head around it, we say headcount, right? So you can have half a developer, a whole developer. Yeah. So you can have half a developer, a whole developer, two developers, and a lot of that is really dependent on timeline. How much effort do you want us to put into getting things completed? So if you have big deadlines. Like we have a new client who has some very tight deadlines for the end of the year. They're paying for resources of 2 developers. Now, in reality, they have I think about 6 people working on the project at any given time. And a lot of times, those times will overlap. And that's our retainer model. So what John and I do in that scenario is we're managing the money. We're almost acting as PMs. Like, we're making sure that the client is getting the work out of the retainer that they're paying for, but at the same time, we're not overspending and we're not giving them too much for free. And the idea was that there's meant to be some wiggle room, especially for long-term contracts, where maybe 1 week there's not much for a developer to do, but the next week they have to work extra hours. And the point of the retainer is, end of day, the client doesn't have to worry about what we're going to charge them. They know month over month what their bill is going to be, and they can budget for it. It benefits us as well, because we don't have to worry month over month how much we have to try to get out of a client. We know every month we're going to get this retainer from this client, so we can budget our people accordingly. That's our retainer model. I don't know, John, how do you feel about it? We've been using it for a couple of years now.
If we have a chance to talk to a client and explain most of that, it makes more sense, especially when you start saying, you're not hiring a DBA, you're not hiring a JavaScript person, a PHP person. You're bringing us on and letting us kind of manage that. DevOps, all of the specialties, we have somebody that can fill that gap, and they don't have to try and piece that out themselves. So talking to a client, they often get it, makes it easier to sell it. Trying to put it into an email is a little more tricky.
Yeah. And it only works if you have a big enough company. If you're a sole developer, it doesn't really work because it's still just you. And that's exactly what our model is meant to get away from. It's like, you don't want us to give you one developer. You don't want to depend on one developer to be able to do everything. You want us to give you a back-end developer to do your back-end stuff. You want us to give you an operations person to do your operations stuff. And you want us to give you a front-end person to do your front-end stuff. That's what you really want. You don't think you can afford it, but you can on this retainer model. And I don't know, I like it. But yeah, to John's point, it is a little tricky for people because it still ultimately comes down to, well, how many people are going to be working on my project? It's like, well,
and how many hours? Is it full-time, part-time?
Thousands.
A whole lot of questions around that, which is why I kept pushing. We have to do call it a half developer, and it roughly equates to 20 hours a week. Developer roughly equates to 40 hours a week. Because when we first started the business, Eric really wanted to go down this road of 2 people are worth different amounts of money. You have one person that can do a job in an hour, which may take another person 5 hours to get done. And he was really wanting to somehow use that data in pricing. And I was like, that's just way too complicated for a business person to get their mind around. They're used to employees.
Right, and that's all. Even when I was on the other end of this, and I was paying consulting firms hourly rates, that was always my question to them is, what's your incentive to get this done any quicker? Because if I'm paying you hourly, to me, there's no incentive to you to work fast or work efficiently. It's just, of course you don't want to drag it on so long that it's obvious that you're dragging your feet, but in my point when we were talking about this model is, a very seasoned developer, especially a seasoned Laravel developer, can bootstrap a Laravel site in 15, 20 minutes. Whereas a non-seasoned one, it would take them longer. So from our perspective, what's going to make us more money, right? Well, if we're charging hourly, is to put a non-seasoned developer on the project and see how long a client's willing to pay for it. But you don't want to do that. You want to explain to the client, we're going to put a seasoned person on it. It's going to take them an hour. Your bill may equate to 2 hours, but at least you're not paying 6 hours. And again, to John's point, no matter how I try to document it, no matter how I tried to present it, I was never able to present it so it made sense. And so, like I said, John really kind of came up with we're still just going to use headcount on it. And it's worked for us for the most part, I think. But that is another factor. I mean, it's
still
not
in business. So it must work.
It's not only a factor of a front-end developer and a back-end developer. It's this needs to be done. This is a complex problem. We have a high-end back-end developer who's going to work on this one problem. And it's only going to take them 2 hours, or it's going to only take them 6 hours. But it's we're not going to put a more junior person on it who may stumble around for the next week trying to figure it out. And that is one of the things where I felt it. Now the one kind of compromise we've made on that whole model, and it's not so much a compromise, but we've tried to assign a lead so that that client always has one person they know they can reach out to and talk to. So like every client that we have that's on this retainer model, there is a kind of a lead to that project. So whether they're actually doing development at the time or not doing development, they could actually be working on a whole other project. They're still tasked with kind of being the point person for any questions or coordinating or anything they need to do with the client. So I hope for those who have been wondering about our business model, and more specifically listening to us talk about our retainer model, I hope this kind of sheds some light on it.
So how far do you want to get into today's news?
Oh, big time.
So up until this point. Go ahead.
Wait, go ahead, Thomas. Did you want to go somewhere?
Is this related? Is this
Thomas?
What my business model of just being employed by somebody? No. Does this have to do with you being a published author now? Because I'm like totally hanging on that.
Oh my God, we blew right past that, didn't we?
So up until this point, our business model has been.
That's totally on me. I moved on from the topic and forgot about it. So while we're at PHP World, John and I have been doing the podcast for PHP Architect for almost 2 years now. Could that be right? Because there's been at least 2 PHP techs.
We're not playing this game again. We've tried figuring out how long we've been doing certain things forever.
So we've been doing the podcast for PHP Architect for a while, and there's kind of a running joke between the three of us.
Yeah, we want. So yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of been a running joke between the three of us that I'm the only one that has never been published in PHP Architect, and I keep like throwing topic ideas out to Oscar, and Oscar's like, no, yeah, I got somebody working on that one. No, this person's already going to submit that. So at PHP World, Oscar came up to me and asked me if I'd be interested in taking over Community Corner on the PHP Architect magazine, which is a reoccurring segment in the magazine. And I told him, sure. It actually came about because I had presented Oscar with an idea of highlighting user groups. And of course, me being me, I wanted to do a podcast on it. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. I think it would be a good podcast as a supplement podcast for PHP Architect. Would you be interested in a podcast where I interview organizers of user groups, and we get into the specifics about the user group, the pros and cons and challenges and fun things and what they do in that. And at the time, he was like, I don't know. I actually had that vision for Community Corner, but Community Corner ended up going its kind of a different direction. And so again, at PHP World, Oscar came and said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking over Community Corner? And more specifically, would you be interested in the format that you suggested, where you're highlighting user groups?" And so I said, "Yeah." And of course, the first user group I did was the San Diego PHP user group, what I knew. So now I have a reoccurring article in PHP Architect for the immediate future, and I will be contributing to the Community Corner of PHP Architect. Thanks for reminding me. And my kids were oddly excited about it. I thought, of course, I geek out on this stuff and I enjoy it, but my wife and kids were actually very supportive of it. I think they understood how important it was to me. So, yeah.
Huh. That must be weird. I haven't.
Yeah, it's weird. My kid.
I haven't ever experienced that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. Trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have bigger news. This
I don't know how it could
stop.
get bigger.
This train does not stop anytime soon. We're chewing right through 2020.
E-train barreling through.
I'll let John take this next part. I'm tired.
Yeah.
This train doesn't stop. Also, I need to stop.
I've tried starting the conversation 3 times. Just no, we had to talk about you being a published author.
I told you, it's all about me. Me.
So, going back to our business model, we've always had all of our employees. We're always independent contractors. Everyone working for us, and it's just been the model that seemed to work best for us and for them. We never set any schedules. People could work when and where they wanted, how they wanted. We didn't dictate number of hours. We offered them full-time hours. Like, if you want to work up to 40 hours, go for it. And of course, good old California comes through and says, nope, those are employees now. So we're in the process of converting everyone from independent contractors, 1099s, to W-2s. Good old employees. Trying to figure out what we need to do there. Coming up with, like, how are we going to structure? Is it going to be salary, hourly? There's just so many questions. Are we providing health insurance or 401ks? Are we, like, what are the benefits?
And our goal is to get it done by January 1st. Like, our goal is January 1st, having everybody converted over to employees. So for the people on Patreon, and for the people who have wanted to see videos of us running our business and behind the scenes, it may be a pretty entertaining couple of months for you. I'll try to document it and get little snippets. Obviously, need to be a little careful about what we share, but we'll share as much as we can and kind of take you through the journey with us. But it's not a bad thing. It was an odd conversation to have with the team today, because you're so used to living a certain way. You're so used to things being a certain way, and any disruption in that seems jarring. And as we told the team, it's like, this is a conversation John and I have had a couple times a year, every year since we started the business. Is now the time? Is now the right time to have employees? And and we get feed. I mean, it's not just John and I talking. We have accountants and we have other people we speak to, and we're constantly getting feedback. And
spiritual advisors.
Up until this year, the feedback has always been, you're not in that corner yet. There's no reason to do it, so don't do it. There's no benefit to you. And it was never, it wasn't ever really about a benefit. It was just a matter of, what's better for the people working with us. Is it better that they're employees or contractors, and there's arguments both ways? And, you know, so it was always just kind of what makes the company stronger. You know, as of now, it's no longer an option. It's no longer a conversation. It's no longer a decision. It has to be done. So we're doing it. And of course, like I said, I think there was some initial, well, we're sorry you're in this position. And we were like, no. We're okay with this. We want you to be part of the company. We want you to feel like, you know, you have a role in this company. So we're okay with this. We just want to make sure it's good for you. We don't want you to lose out. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how all this pans out. I'm curious.
Yep. I'm hoping that it's not too stressful and, you know, things stay calm.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But and then it was funny because, you know, the wife and I have been entertaining the idea of moving for a while. I've talked about it on the show, and you know, I even brought that up. I'm like, hey, you know, I can move by the end of the year. I can move it by the end of the year, and we can move the company. And ultimately, you know, it was that might be a temporary patch, but the reality of it is, this is going to be this requirement is going to hit everywhere. And then there's always the potential challenge of the fact that the majority of the people working for the company are still in California. So if they ever wanted to go to the labor board and say, hey, this company is, you know, they moved their headquarters to Tennessee, but all their developers are still here in California. Yeah, there's nothing to say California couldn't come to us and say, no, you're not skirting by like that. You know, you're still going to have to abide by our laws. Because right now, the specific reason we're having to do it right now is because of something that's being passed here in California. But it seems inevitable. It's going to be everywhere eventually.
Yep. It is going to be. I don't think we've talked about any PHP, have we?
It's interesting to me that California took that on instead of the 39-hour work week for part-time employees who don't get medical care or tax exemptions for it or have to have 2 jobs. But whatever.
You don't sound bitter or anything.
No, I didn't work at 7-Eleven on the graveyard shift and make minimum wage and not get health care, even though I was working 40 hours a week.
Did you have some PHP you want us to talk about, John?
No, not specifically. I was just noticing. I'm fascinated by a story Tom has on his Trello board.
Dun dun.
I forgot we have a Trello board.
And the one your Trello board.
I have some horrifying news today.
Lay it on us.
I'd like to start with the most basic of doom and gloom, basic government function. After cuts to funding at the IRS admitted that they only audit poor people because rich people can defend themselves too well.
How does that have anything to do with PHP or IT?
Nothing. It's just getting that out of my way real quick.
Oh, God. Okay. Good job.
We've got some interesting stuff. 2 of them are kind of related to each other. I saw an interesting JavaScript project the other day that was able to transmit information between browsers using the speakers and microphone on the devices. And they had gotten it working well enough that it could transmit ultrasonically.
We can get with the ultrasonic stuff.
It's very interesting. It encodes it in some way. It sounds a little bit like Morse code when you hear it sonically, but ultrasonic, I tried to hear it, absolutely could not pick it up, and my phone 100% picked it up and knew what was being typed on the screen. So like this concept as a keylogger, you could jimmy up some software that would keylog every website and transmit data ultrasonically to another device in the room that's just passively listening. It's very interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue that
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Did I roll my eyes there? I apologize. Are you falling asleep, John? John, are you falling? You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch! I'm here rolling my eyes intentionally at you, and you're falling asleep. God damn it!
You're both terrible. Don't worry.
So tired right now. You and rolling your eyes. We don't need to get into that. Or do we?
The other issue. This was something that came up that when I read the article title, I thought, well, okay, this is some Chicken Little bullshit. They're using expensive equipment and they're doing this with high-powered lasers and whatever. The title is Laser-Based Audio Injection on Voice Controllable Systems. So your first thought, of course, is there's no laser receptor on my Alexa or Google Home device, so how could it possibly receive a laser signal? And it turns out that the membrane that's used on the microphones in these devices is sensitive enough that it can detect laser pulses as audio. So of course I assume that this is a giant gigawatt laser that they must be blowing this thing at, and it must be incredibly expensive to do anyways. But it turns out they actually got this working with flashlights, and they're using a standard laser pointer for their demonstration unit. And they were able to trigger commands on smart devices from as far as 100 meters away, 150 meters away, through Windows. As long as they got the laser dialed correctly into the microphone port on the device, it was able to affect the device and do things such as trigger home automation and stuff like that. And it's surprisingly
so don't
easy
put your
stuff.
Alexa next to a window. Gotcha.
Yeah, and also these device manufacturers need to put a shroud over the microphone so that light can't directly interact with the membrane on the microphone. It's a 2-cent
is what that is.
It's a 2-cent plastic piece.
Thomas is getting tired of this. John, Thomas is rolling his eyes, John. Thomas is looking grumpy, John. John!
But the most interesting one that I read today, and boy, this is going to become a big thing once it comes out. Chrome 78 is going to allow accessing and modifying of local files. Direct accessing and modifying of local files. So you can...
In a sandbox area?
You dictate which files are chosen to be available to the JavaScript on execution time. So the user has to say, you get access to these files. And that lasts for as long as the session is valid or for as long as the tab is open. Once you close the tab, it needs to re-authenticate. And it's only on the files that you've selected. But boy, it sounds just like the best, worst idea possible. The big implication here is that you could have a fully fledged IDE running as a website that could access the local files to update them and execute them in real time. That's one idea that they've threw out there. But there's the other side of the reality, which is if this is not a perfect implementation, which nothing is, then spyware injection, malware injection just got so much easier for people. There isn't going to be an inherent off-limits directory. You can say, this website has access to my Windows directory. And you're going to see phishing scams that say...
I'm safe. I don't have one of those.
Well, yeah, you don't even have a secure file system, though. So it's it's a great idea, but it seems like there's going to be a massive influx of new hijacks and viruses coming in through this thing. The I love you bug that hit Outlook in 2001. All it needed was people to say, "Hey, there's an attachment on this email. Go ahead and open it. I love you," and millions of people did. This could be just as bad, and there is no way that I can think of that antivirus programs are going to be able to easily circumvent this new attack vector. Because it's not a downloaded file. It's a file being edited by a program running in the user space that Chrome is running in. So that's part of the new Chrome 78 thing. They're also doing a couple other things. An SMS receiver API, so you can send SMSs, I believe, directly to Chrome applications.
John's blinks are getting longer and longer.
I know.
That was like a good 3 second.
Record and drive.
That was like a 3 second blink from John. And John was like sitting there going.
Tell me it's time to wrap up.
All right, that's my doom. That's my doom and gloom.
I'm sorry, Thomas. You're upset. Listen, look, we can put comments. People are
I have
commenting.
some PHP news.
Listen, people are commenting, and I'm putting it on the screen. Can you guys see that? What do you guys see when you're in?
I see nothing.
You?
Who's commenting?
You.
Oh, well, I'm not going to tell you now. But it's Matt Lance. And his pictures.
Oh, he's my favorite.
I wonder where. Matt, where did you comment that out? How did that show up on the stream like that? That's goofy. Are you on YouTube commenting? Where is that coming from?
That is YouTube, yeah.
So, hey, wait, we have camera effects. We haven't even been playing with camera effects yet.
No, we're not. You think John's blinking long now? So the PHP news for this week, I will give you something. Xdebug has officially launched support for PHP 7.4.
Xdebug 7.4. That's great. Oh, look at that! Something just popped up. It's like a 30 minutes of content. This is crazy. Matt is on the show now, and I can't stop him from being on the show. He's just commenting.
I can.
It's insane. It's insane. It's like Discord. We need to get Discord plugged in here now. All right. So yeah, I think that's going to be a good spot to wrap it. We haven't even been talking for an hour, just FYI, John. But yeah, we can wrap it up, I guess. I'm looking at my recording. We're at 53 minutes.
Oh my goodness. We talked too much. It's been a long day.
It has. It was an early morning. We had to go downtown San Diego. And again, we'll cover some of the legitimacy of a business. Like, we're constantly talking about that. Like, does having an office make you a more legitimate business? Does having employees make you a more legitimate business? And,
like we said earlier, one of the things that is frustrating now is when we're talking to somebody, talking about our business, and then they ask how many employees we have, we always have to qualify with, well, we don't have employees, we have contractors, and we try to explain all of that. Now it's going to feel like, oh, we have X employees, and we're just done. Conversation over. It feels more legitimate.
Yeah. And I kind of feel the same way about the office, because it's like potential clients are always, or not always, but we've had potential clients who have been like, well, can we come to your office and talk about it? Almost as if like, we want to see if you guys have a real office or not, or if this is like somebody's basement. And I don't know.
Well, Eric particularly gets that a lot. John, everyone just assumes he's got an office somewhere and that he's always there and sleeps and works there. Eric, people see him and they go, "Can we see your office?"
Don't trigger Eric right now. He doesn't need any more triggering. Hey, stop.
It's like that always. It's like one of those Always Sunny in Philadelphia things where they say, "Step into my office," and it's just a box behind a trash can.
He's opening Pandora's box.
I'm all of a sudden very nervous about the fact that we're going to have an HR department because I've already gotten a couple talking tos, and I don't need it on my permanent record.
You know what? I'll do you a solid. I'll be your HR department.
Oh, jeez, that's what we need. Are you okay with that, John?
I've already added a couple of things to his employee file. I'm preparing to have a talk with him eventually.
Oh my God! All right, I think that's it. We got Sean. Sean's popping in, commenting now. My Canadian friends, my Canadian buddies are contributing, so I like that. Okay.
Always feels weird to me. Most of our listeners are more accomplished in the public domain than I am.
Than any of us are, right? I mean, like everybody who listens to the show and contributes, they seem to be like higher up on the food chain than we actually are.
Yeah, one of our listeners is Matt Lance. He's that guy who gets interviewed once a week or so by different magazines and other podcasts.
Rainbow Collective, all this stuff.
He was talked a lot about at PHP World. Everyone's missing him.
Yeah.
That's true. People came up to me and said, "Hey, Tom, where's Matt?" I haven't seen him around.
We get a lot. We do get that. At Laracons, everybody's always like, when are you guys starting Larachat back up? When are you guys doing the Larachat again? Yeah, I don't know. It's not my thing, man. You gotta talk to Sean.
Guests on that one.
Exactly. That's what I tell him all the time. Like, that was Sean's gig, man. You guys gotta go bug him. I was just a chump who showed up every week. So
what makes a TSA lock so special?
It's standard.
Can't the key just be replicated?
It doesn't qualify as a lock.
What do you mean?
It doesn't have a secret. Like, it has a universal secret where they just have a pokey thing that opens it, which is essentially a toothpick or, a mixing straw from Starbucks. So, like, it's not really a lock.
Right. So if you spend $100 on a smart lock that's TSA approved, you're basically just wasting a lot of money.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the whole point of locks for your luggage was to keep the people who were chucking your luggage from getting into it. It wasn't like an issue where people at the destination were going through bags at the carousel. The whole point was that people didn't trust baggage handlers. And now the baggage handlers have a key for every single one of those locks. So what's even the point?
Well, the particular lock that John's talking about is actually meant so that, like, when you're at Starbucks or something, you can actually lock your bag. So it's not a...
Yeah, but then they can take your bag and open it with a nail clipper.
No, not my bag. So check this out. I got this new bag. I'll show you exactly what he's talking about. First thing, it actually has a TSA lock on it, but I'm not going to use that. But this bag has this cord that you can wrap around and lock it. And the lock that he's specifically talking about is, I have one on this bag, are these little, see if you can see it here, are these smart locks we got. Where's it at? Right there. So the whole idea is that if you're at a Starbucks or something, you need to run in the restroom, so you can zip your bag up, put it around something, lock everything up, and that was the point.
But as I'm sitting here looking at it, and I realize, it's a TSA lock, and it's a simple key that's probably replicated well beyond the TSA at this point. It seems kind of silly. You're muted, or I can't hear you.
We lost.
It's not really a key. It's just a pokey bit. It doesn't. You would be amazed at how quickly I can break into $50 locks that you buy from like Lowe's or Home Depot. It's 4 or 5 seconds maybe. So
Interesting. I didn't mean to derail us. I just happened to notice it.
No, you're trying to get me mad. I tried to do something nice for you. You're trying to shit all over it.
Oh, I'm not trying to get you.
John.
I'm not trying. No,
he's taking the show back to its roots.
I can't roll my eyes if you're not going to look at me, John. Doesn't have the same effect.
I don't want to get in trouble anymore. You yelled at me enough today. And yesterday.
I yelled at you more yesterday, man.
This has been episode 169 of Divorce Court.
Welcome! Hey, you. Marcus did a fantastic job there. You got good feedback from him.
Congratulations to Marcus on the presentation at Laracon, AU.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing me a shirt, Marcus. I appreciate it.
Hopefully, I will be able to say in a future episode that I will be presenting at a conference.
Which one?
That's shocking. I would be excited to hear that.
Yeah, I decided on what I want to present.
You realize you got to submit.
Yep. And it's something I've presented before, and it's a topic that I never see covered correctly at cons, so I'm going to...
You need at least 2 talks, though.
Working on that part.
Yeah.
I've got the one.
You want to submit 4. Let them pick. They'll pick 2.
Well, I've got 4. I mean, I've got all my old backlog, but the one I really care about is my security talk. Visualizing CSRF, XSS, and stuff like that. Realize that all of these conferences we go to, everyone's talking about how to do cool stuff, and no one's talking about how to avoid getting hacked or how to avoid liability for hacks. So
you didn't go check out Eric Bam at PHP World. He's the big security guy.
Well, I didn't know.
Well, now you can be a security guy with him. I'm not trying to discourage you. I want you to do it.
No, it's okay. It's because I said your lock sucks, isn't it?
You see, you haven't actually said it, but now that you did, it stings a little bit. Yeah.
The most important deterrent is a visual deterrent. So I would just spray paint it orange, and you're good to go.
All right, I think that's it. I think we're gonna wrap it up. This has been episode 169.
Nice.
Of PHP Ugly. I'm been your host, Eric Van Johnson. Anytime now. You guys, Tom's right out.
I'm John Congdon.
Tom, really?
Thomas Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Fucking amateurs. Amateurs!
I thought that was surprisingly well done. I feel like we telepathically coordinated to not talk.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like I always jump in those.
Don't let Eric have this one.
Yeah, 8 people watching us. That's a new record of some sort.
I missed the story. I'm going to stop my recording, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'll stop mine. I'm going to keep streaming for a little while though, since we have people watching.
So I forgot to mention one thing, because you know how I'm like super good with the IRS and they love me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what So the IRS sent me a letter that says, we gave instructions to your employer. Your new marital status is single and your new withholding allowances are 0.
Yep.
What?
I'm single now.
Were you guys never actually married?
It literally has nothing to do with that.
It's just his file.
Oh, you're filing as single.
I'm not filing as single. My W-4 is listed as single. So the story is I owe the IRS a lot of money, and they had come to the conclusion that they can't collect it from me because I don't have it. So what they're doing now is trying to collect on my paycheck as much as legally possible before it gets to me by reducing my withholdings to the minimum legal level.
Do you want me to stop streaming before we have this conversation?
No, I thought I already made it clear earlier in the episode that fuck the IRS. And not for the typical reason that people are like taxation is theft. I don't agree with that. I just think the IRS is put in such a horribly shitty position to favor collecting taxes from people who have the least because they're least capable of defending themselves. And the system is controlled by Congress. So when TurboTax and Quicken and Intuit lobby to disallow for automatic filing of taxes by the federal government so that they can make billions of dollars, that's a bullshit situation too. No one wants that except for corporations. It's a very shitty situation, and the IRS is basically stuck doing this because they don't have a choice, because they're controlled by greedy people. So no, I think that's pretty out in the open. And what are they going to do? Audit me? The thing I bought.
I don't want them to start picking on your friends because you don't have a lot of friends, like high on that list, and it won't take them long to get to me. God damn it!
It would take them forever if we're using the term friends.
Ouch! That hurt. That stung.
Oh, I'm kidding. I love you guys.
For a while.
I love you guys. Yeah, it's a shitty situation, but what are you going to do? I only have one more year to wait until $23,000 in debt disappears. Just poof. So that's nice.
You got editing duties, brother?
I will take them.
Right, then.
I felt weird every day this week. I opened up a YouTube video and I thought, God, I'm forgetting something. And it's no, I didn't have a podcast added. Wasn't forgetting anything.
Dude, why is my files? Why is mine so much bigger than yours, John? I'm like twice the size of yours.
They say it's genetics, but there's also family history and
with your hands.
Bills. Pumps. I've got the dynamic processor in there.
So do I.
Don't do that, guys. That screws it up so much.
But it cuts out my Darth Vader breathing.
I cut that out.
You do a terrible job at it.
That's not true. I do a great job of it.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I hate. That's the worst part about editing is listening to myself breathe in the mic when I'm talking. I'm like, oh my God. You see, how am I even doing this for a living? Not that I get to even do it, but it's like, why am I even doing this? Jesus. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I think that was a pretty exciting show.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Exciting. Sleep. So, I'm going to bed.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you guys in the morning.
All right, have a good night, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, I'm still streaming. Hey guys! I'm still streaming. You guys all hung up? No, I might like this better. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I might like this app better than OBS. It's simpler. I don't know. I might try to get them to stick with this for a while. Alright. Okay, for everybody watching, there's my desktop. Talk to you later. Look at that, I even have the logo. See, I even started doing the scenes on here. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll port all my scenes over to Ecamm. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. Alright, man. Love you, Matt. Love you too, brother. Sean, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Appreciate you too. Alright. Talk to you later. Bye.